Welcome, creative friends. Today we're going to be making the windows and doors. Here I'm just sanding some chipboard. I put some masking tape as a guide. Here I have frames that I cut out, and I'm going to use them as a template. Each window has a different frame because they're not 100% the same size. I'm going to trace it out after I got the correct size, and I made a second frame for the inside. After I trace that out, I'm going to cut it from the outside and then use my X-Acto knife for the inside. Here I'm gluing the two sides that I sanded together. I'm going to be making 2 of these for each window. I love using weld bond because it dries very quickly. I'm coloring them with furniture pens because I wasn't sure that acrylic paint was going to work. I was afraid it would warp it. The strips are only 1 layer of chipboard. Here I have packaging plastic, and I put one of the frames that I made on the underside, and I'm going to glue the frames that I made on the top of it. I'm just putting some weld bond. First I'm gluing the frame, removing the excess glue. And here I'm just cutting a little bit of the top to round it up. And of course I'm going to color it. I'm just measuring, coloring again on the bottom. Of course I'm not measuring with a ruler. I'm using the Gretchen style, eyeballing it. And I did the exact same thing on the other side. And this is how they look after I put them in. Some of them I had to bend a little bit to fit. Now I'm starting with the big door. Originally, my plan was to have some stained glass on the side of it, but after I put in the steps, it wasn't big enough. I'm just gluing it onto the chipboard as a guide. I'm gonna be using 2 layers of chipboard. I'm sanding it down and then going to glue it on the other side. I decided on using the big craft sticks for this door. So I'm just gluing them on one by one. For the door frame, I'm going to be using these coffee stir sticks. I already put them in water, left them for a couple of hours, and when they were soft enough, I taped them to the doorway. Now for the fun part, the decorating. I punched out 2 maple leaves from chipboard. Here I'm just gluing them together. I used cardstock for the smaller leaves. I used the largest 4 leaves and glued 2 of them together. Here I'm measuring out how long I want the door hinges to be. I painted the maple leaves and the hinges black and the door green. And now I'm using my ball pen tool to make grooves in the wood. I'm using watered down black acrylic paint to highlight the grooves that I made. And here is where my nightmare starts. Checking out the hinges, putting holes to mark where I'm going to be putting the nails. Now I put glue, trying to put the nails in. My advice, don't even try using those nails. They're too fat. The tops are so big that the hinges never close properly. I had to learn that the hard way. I'm just going to show you how much I struggled, and this is like really cutting it down. It took me over an hour to put that door in. I hate doors. But I did find a solution in the end. Now before I put the door in, I have to think of a decoration I want to put in the back. So I'm using this scrap paper, cutting out some butterflies. I'm going to be gluing each two together and leaving one without. Now I'm coloring the edges with ink markers. Here I'm rolling the paper with the tip of my paintbrush. I'm going to be gluing them on top of each other to give it a 3D effect. Later on, I noticed after it dried that all of the wings started becoming flat on top of each other, so I put some Mod Podge between them. I didn't record that part, and I kept on making sure that they weren't sticking to each other until the Mod Podge dried. I kept the butterfly together using my locking tweezers. Here I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do. I bought these acrylic butterflies from Temu. They're nail art. I'm not gluing anything. This is just me trying to figure out what I want to do. You see all these beads, they're all mixed up. The whole thing fell on me and I just picked them up. I tried sorting them out, but it was just too much work. Dog hair. I'm using crimps. These are little metal pieces. They're like beads, but if you squish them, they get squished. They're used to use at the end of necklaces. After I glued the maple leaves and I put one sticker from nail art, I highlighted them with some light blue and I put a piece of twig to be the handle. I'm using another piece of twig on the opposite side. I decided I wanted something hanging under the butterfly, so I got these chains. And because they were too shiny, later on I just painted them with black acrylic paint. And I'm putting some pearl beads at the end. Now that I'm happy with the decoration, I go back to my struggling nightmare. I had to cut some grooves in the wood, all because of those nails. And I glued and clamped the door hinges to the door frame. Yay, success! No, that was not the end of my nightmare. Little did I know how much I was gonna struggle just to put the nails in. It felt like an eternity. But I avoided this problem in the smaller door. I glued the hinges between the cardstock layers, and that was the perfect solution. And then I did the same in the door frame. I made a slit and I stuffed them in there. And of course the nails kept on flying all over the place, and I kept on losing nail after nail. This is me getting more nails. No, the camera is not upside down. This is the house just tilted on its side, or on its face down. I noticed that there's this empty space between where I put the frame and the door. I'm going to be filling it with the same mixture that I made and put on top of the mushrooms, which is toilet paper, white glue, and cornstarch. I'm gonna be using stir sticks for the smaller door because it has a curve. I already glued 2 pieces of chipboard together, and then later on I'm gonna put a third to sandwich the hinges. I wanted to use the stir sticks on the underside of the door, but because of the curve it's not gonna work, so I decided on using this foam. I think it's children craft foam, very thin, but it did the job. I just cut it into strips and glued it on. To preserve the curve of the door, I used these clips to hold on to the coffee stir sticks. Now I'm going to be coloring the door from both sides black. Oh, and I did draw some ridges inside the foam to make it look like it was wood grain. I used my ballpoint tool. You see how the hinges are sandwiched? Here I used some evergreen, which is not green anymore. I glued it on there. After it was dry, I painted it black, and then this is how it looks after it was done. I used a very, very baby small acorn for the door handle. So cute. I haven't decided what I want to do for the inside, so I just left it bare for now. This is the big door, and you see how I slipped those hinges in. One of them kept on popping out a little bit, but yeah, live and learn. Much better than before. And I did notice that when I try to open the door, it gets stuck a little bit, so I'm gonna be putting some wax or maybe some soap, a bar of soap, you know, rubbing it there to make it slippery. And this is the paint that I used just to highlight everything. Now, if you stayed with me to the end of the video, you're gonna get a sneak peek. This was yesterday when we had the big storm and I didn't have any power. So I decided to take Jasmine out to see the weather. She got all dressed up for the cold weather. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Bye.